Yo, what's happening, YouTube? I know it's been a little while, but today I wanted to bring you a little video that I'm wanting to do for a while now, which is my thoughts on Pigs add-ons as a whole right now and like the state of Pig in DBD, because I know it's something that I get asked a lot on stream, and while I do my best to briefly answer it, I can never really go into as much detail as I would like to, since there's quite a lot of stuff in her kit, and there's quite a few add-ons that I don't particularly like. Hence why I briefly put it as she needs a full add-on rework. But I kind of wanted to go into a little bit of detail today as to what that actually means and what I mean when I say I want Pigs add-ons changed, because I really don't think they're as good or as fun as they can be. So anyways, let's get into this. So I want to start this with talking about what I think her add-ons do really well, because I think that can provide some sort of foundation to what her other add-ons could change into, or something similar to this. So I want to start off with the combat strap and the shattered syringe. Now these are the two add-ons that I've probably used the most on Pig out of all of them, simply because they both aid your ability to chase in a way that isn't really obnoxious. The combat strap reduces the time it takes to crouch by 0.3 seconds, and the shattered syringe reduces the cooldown of a missed dash by 25%, which makes it a very good add-on for a Brown. And the two together end up just aiding your chase. They allow you to better practice dashes, and they allow you to take more risks versus good players because the cooldown is such a significant change and the crouch speed is so significant. You can just end up taking a lot more risks versus people, and I like high risk, high reward gameplay like that. I think it is worth briefly mentioning that 25% on Shattered Syringe is a lot for a Brown add-on, but in this particular circumstance, I don't think 25% is that bad of a thing, partly because of the amount of time it takes to set up. Crouching is not the fastest thing in the world, and then it's not like Billy where he can instantly recover and then his power is also a one-shot. So while 25% is a lot, it's not that bad by itself, although it does stack to 50% with a videotape, and that's quite a lot, so I don't know. But compared to the rest of the kit, I've got no issues with it. I think it's fine. I'm also quite a large fan of the videotape and the medical file, although I'll never use them myself, primarily because they affect my muscle memory, so if you're not really used to them, then you can end up whiffing a lot of dashes, just because it's such a fast charge up. Like, it's 50% per add-on, and while they use DBD math rather than real math, it's still a lot when stacked together. Both of them stacked reduces the dash charge up to 0.375 seconds, which is a very short charge. But it's pretty much instant, and they are insane stacked. Probably a little bit too insane stacked, but again, compared to the rest of the kit, this is nothing major. And finally, I wanted to mention the Amanda's Letter, since this is an add-on that primarily is looked down on by a lot of people. It's not a very good add-on. But when you put it with a strap and you go on an indoor map, you can sort of do like a mini Mirror Myers as such, but with all of your abilities still there. So it's an insanely cool and very fun add-on that allows you to completely change the way you play Pig, and it gives you an entire new playstyle. Or you could use it as a learning add-on, where you could bring on other maps like Colburn Farm, etc., and you can just use it to see what people do when you crouch mid-chase. And while you might not get very many kills with it, it will allow you to learn and improve your gameplay, because once you take the add-on off, you now know how they're going to react when you're crouched, so it's a very good add-on. Now at this point, you're probably starting to see a pattern with the add-ons that I like. These are add-ons that reward you as killer for doing well, or allow you to take more risks to improve your gameplay. On top of that, you've got add-ons like the Amanda's Letter, which also completely change the way you play the killer, and open up an entirely new playstyle around the character. And they're kind of the only add-ons in her kit that really do this. The rest of them are all trap add-ons primarily, and while that's fine, there's far too many of them, and they're all either status effect add-ons, or they're obnoxiously strong, or they do nothing. So for example, she has 4 different add-ons that are literally just, when you have a trap on, you have X status effect. And while that's okay in examples like the face mask, because they open up a new playstyle, I'll admit it's a slugging playstyle and they're not the most fun thing in the world. It does open up a new playstyle. Whereas the others simply aid you in your ability to tunnel as the killer. And while, yes, that is technically a playstyle, it's not a fun playstyle, it's not an engaging playstyle, and it's never a playstyle that anyone has ever enjoyed playing against, ever. For example, the Mangled add-on makes it more difficult for you to heal yourself to full while you have a helmet on, which in turn promotes that you go around the boxes and searching them while you're injured. And while I can already tell that some of you are going to argue that boxes should be scary, I don't feel like it's right for an add-on to promote chasing someone with a helmet on when that completely contradicts the entire point of the helmets. And that, like, 7 or 8 of her add-ons all do this. So, like, you can stack the Mangled add-on with Amanda's Secret, which I know on the face of it, Amanda's Secret sucks. But if they search the box while they're injured, and then they remove the helmet, you see their aura, and they are injured. So you trap them, you hook them, they remove the helmet, and you can instantly just tile them down again and put another helmet on them. I just don't see how this is fun gameplay, and I just don't see how this sort of gameplay allows you to improve your gameplay as a killer if you're relying on doing this constantly. The exhaustion add-on's a similar thing because you're exhausted for the entire time that you have a helmet on your head, so again, it makes you an easy target with a helmet. The hemorrhage add-on, well, technically you can run it with Bloodhound for easy tracking, but let's be real here, hemorrhage doesn't really do an enormous amount, so. Moving away from tunneling a little bit, she's actually got a couple of add-ons that actually just don't really do much of anything. Namely, the interlocking razor, the razor wires, and the workshop grease. Now, the workshop grease and the razor wires both increase your chance of getting a skill check on a saw box, and the interlocking razor massively increases the penalty of failing a skill check on a saw box, as in it goes from about a 5% regression of the box to the box regresses 70% and pretty much resets. And the idea of it is that you run the razor wires with the interlocking razor, and you get more skill checks, which gives you more of a chance of failing. But there's no way to actually make the skill checks harder. You used to be able to run Unnerving Presence with her, and you would stack them, and then you would get really small skill check on a saw box. So you would run a giant terror radius, and you would go on the game map, and you would get really hard skill checks. And I actually quite like this build because it was more down on the survivors screwing up that was killing them to helmets, rather than you just running an add-on, and there's nothing they can do, you just find them and tunnel them down. I liked this build, but behavior removed the synergy of skill check perks from saw boxes, and now they only really affect generator and healing skill checks, so you can't really use them anymore. And in doing that, it made these 3 add-ons pretty redundant since they don't really have that much of a use anymore, because all you effectively do is give them more skill checks. And it's pretty difficult to fail one of these skill checks when they're the normal size, because they are not very small, and they're quite easy to hit. To change these, I would probably add an add-on that makes skill checks harder, or I would just bring back the synergy, because the synergy was nice when it was there, but now that the synergy's gone, they're pretty useless, and it's kind of a shame, really, because these are pretty cool add-ons. The rule set number 2 is an extremely interesting add-on, because it's a very, very, very controversial one. A lot of players want this add-on to become base kit on the Pig, and I'm not really sure that it should. This add-on disables the ability for survivors to see the auras of the jigsaw boxes until their helmet is activated, and the idea is it makes the traps more of a threat, and then they die more often because you stack it with like a timer or something. But what actually ends up happening is the opposite as such. Sure, there's more risk of them dying to a helmet, but there's already better head pop add-ons in the game, and don't worry, I'll be absolutely tearing those add-ons apart later. So yeah, all the rule set does is change the priority of the boxes for the survivors with the helmet on. You have a helmet on, first thing you do, you get off the hook, you see your boxes around, you go straight to the nearest box, and you attempt to take your helmet off. You're passively prioritizing the saw boxes over the generators. You don't realize you're doing it as survivor, but you are. The moment you get a helmet on, most of the time, you go straight to a saw box, you take it off. You're prioritizing the helmet over the gen. With the rule set, you prioritize doing the gen over the helmet. It shifts the priority, And while that might not seem that significant, it ends up being, because it means your helmets don't stall gens, they merely become threats to worry about afterwards. And again, while I know this is to promote going for head pops, again, don't like the concept, but while I know this is to promote that, there's better add-ons for it. Like, you could just put a sketch and a timer on, and you'll get 1,000 times more head pops than you will with a rule set. To me, it'd be best if this add-on just gets completely redone, because I just think it's absolutely useless. Oh boy, here it comes. Moment we've all been waiting for. Right, so now we move on to the elephant in the room, known as the tamper timer, the sketch, the creator gears. You get the idea. Just these add-ons. The tamper timer reduces the death timer on the reverse bear trap by 30 whole seconds. Now that might not sound like a lot, but I did some testing a while ago with Ots for his add-on video, and we found some pretty nasty things about the tamper timer. When used with other add-ons, i.e. Creative Gears, Jigsaw Sketch, the tamper timer makes it absolutely impossible to search every single sawbox unless you are completely uninterrupted and get an almost perfect search of all of the boxes. And since that doesn't really happen in every game, you get an enormous amount of head pots with this. I tried it out and I got 3 head pots in my first game. It is insane how strong they are, and I'm surprised that no one really talks about just how strong they are. I just don't really know what behavior were thinking when they made these add-ons. Like, I don't understand why these add-ons exist. All they do is reward you for RNG. You get rewarded with free kills. If you use these add-ons, you should roughly get a head pop every single game, or maybe every other game if you're super unlucky. And that is a lot of free kills. A free kill every other game for no effort at all. Down them, trap them, you're done. That's a lot. Now, I should explain that Ots and I tested this on Cowshed, which is not a big map. It's also not a small map. It's kind of middly. I was the pig, Ots was the survivor, and we did some testing with it, and tamper timer with sketch, Ots barely made the 5th box. In fact, he didn't make the 5th box a lot of the time, and he ended up just dying to the helmet. And with Creative Gears, he barely made the 4th box. Creative Gears, for those of you that don't know, slows down the searching of the sawbox by about 3 seconds-ish. And since you have 30 seconds less than normal, you only have 2 minutes to search 4 boxes. It's very tight. And not in a good way. If you're found at all by the pig while you're searching the boxes and you get chased away even a little bit, you're gonna die. Like, it's as simple as that. You're gonna die. And I guess this goes back to my original point of I still don't understand why behavior thought that these 4 add-ons were ever a good idea in the first place. I guess the game was different 2 years ago, because it was very different 2 years ago. And I guess they were okay 2 years ago, but it's not 2 years ago now. It's 2020 DBD. Killer's never been this easy before. These add-ons have no place in this game. Creative Gears, Sketch, Timer. Like, if Tamper Timer got removed, I can get behind the idea of the Jigsaw Sketch, because the Jigsaw Sketch adds an extra box on the map. I can get behind this idea by itself, because yeah, it's a little bit more risk of dying, but without the tamper timer, you have enough time to search all 5 boxes and get it off. So the add-on effectively gives you more stall time, which, you know, it's not the worst thing in the world by itself. It's only when stacked with tamper timer it becomes unbelievably obnoxious to play against. I guess a big problem is that a lot of people seem to just completely min-max their builds all the time. So if you're not running the strongest possible build always, then in their minds you're doing it wrong. So if you don't always bring tampered, if you don't always bring pop goes a weasel with it, then you're doing it wrong. Because this idea of min-maxing is so strongly set in stone in people's minds these days. And just don't agree with this mentality. Like, you don't need these add-ons. I don't see why you bring these add-ons, because all they do is just ruin the fun of everyone you're playing with. Like, no one's ever had fun in a tampered timer game, and no one probably ever will have fun in a tampered timer game. My mentality as a player is, if I don't enjoy it as Survivor, I won't use it as Killer, and vice versa. If I don't enjoy it as Killer, I won't do it as Survivor. It's as simple as that. That is just my mentality with this game, and if you don't agree with me, then okay. But Tamper Timer, Sketch, and Crate are just add-ons that no one has ever had fun playing against, and to me, that means they shouldn't exist at all. I guess I just wish there was a way of her add-ons to appease people that like min-maxing, but at the same time not completely ruin the experience for everyone else in the entire game. You may ask what I would do to change them, and well, I mean, I'm short of completely replacing the Tamper Timer. I don't know what the hell you could do with that add-on. But as far as the other ones goes, by themselves, they're not so bad. Double crate stacked is equally quite unfun, so maybe one of each rather than two of each. But I'd rather her add-ons just be a little bit more creative. Look, let's be really honest here. You can effectively split Pig's power up into 3 parts. You've got the dashing, you've got the stealth, and you've got the traps. And yet, like, 80% of her add-ons are all just for the traps. And a lot of these add-ons aren't even fun to play against. Or, if they were fun to play against or play as, they have been patched out of the game already, i.e. the interlocking razor, etc. And now you're left with these horrible trap add-ons that just do nothing other than ruin the fun of other people. I get that she's from Saw, and I get that she's probably got a lot of trap add-ons because it's Amanda, and that was her thing, but if you're persistent on keeping them all as trap add-ons, couldn't we at least just have some trap add-ons that have a bit more engagement to them, that are not just this boring and mindless? Like, 2/3 of her power barely have any add-ons for them. Like, the crouching has 1 add-on, and that's Amanda's letter. The chasing and the dash have like 4 or 5 add-ons tops. The combat strap, both charge add-ons and both cooldown add-ons. And the rest of the add-ons are all trap add-ons. Last Will is probably the only trap add-on, along with the green extra box add-on, that I actually like. And that's saying something, really. I don't see why we can't have much more stealth add-ons, like what the Wraith has, how the Wraith's got all these fantastic add-ons that affect the power in different ways and change the way you play. I don't see why we can't have this for Pig. These sort of add-ons are a big reason as to why Solo Survivor right now is in the state that it is. And I get that people like Clown and Bubba really do need change quicker than she does, because let's be honest, apart from this, she's in a pretty good state in terms of power and balance, whereas killers like Bubba and Clown are really suffering. But even still, I think that these add-ons really need to get changed into something a bit more fresh and just a bit more engaging. Hopefully you agree with me. Hopefully, even if you don't agree with me, you see where I'm coming from with my train of thoughts. Either way, sorry it's not been a video in a while. I'm going to try and get these more often. Remember to leave a like, as they help me out greatly. And if you're new here, I have a Twitch channel that I stream on every single day. I'd love to see you guys there if you haven't already. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got time for today. Laters.